Call the meeting to order and thank all of you for being here. All two of our public members. Mr. Hewitt, you say you have a request to change the agenda?
To add ordinance 1704, the budget amendment that will provide for execution of FEMA Matthew grant reimbursements.
Is there a motion we amend the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is amended, and the first thing that we will address will be the item we just amended and added to the agenda. Mr. Hewitt.
Yes, sir. The town's grant for FEMA assistance regarding reimbursements for damages incurred by Hurricane Matthew has been approved by in the amount of $5,996,227. Those reimbursements will pay for the yardage lost, which is 131,000 yards, about 20 acres of dune vegetation, a sand fence along the entire length of the project, and assorted engineering, design, and permitting expenses. Those reimbursements will be limited to 75% of the total grant until all the permanent work is completed, and then the residual will be released. This is a fine point that I don't know exactly, or it will contribute to how long it takes for us to actually get the money back. There's several components therein. One of them, we do have ongoing monitoring expenses for a period of time after the project is done. I don't know if that will be construed to be part of the work. And so anyway, it's a factor that may come into play. But all that said, and based on working with FEMA in the past, this could take a year or more in order to get these funds reimbursed to the town. But I would recommend, I'd like to get this thing underway just as soon as we can. I would recommend that the board approve the FEMA Matthew budget amendment so that we can move out smartly.
Is there a motion to approve the amendment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. You got that, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
You
Any
gonna-
discussion?
I have a question, David. So does this include, basically all the overtime for all the public works and police and?
These are Category G expenses. This is strictly related to the strand damages. There's a host of other expenses, emergency preparedness, Category A, Category B, which I get my categories: force account labor, utilities damages. There's about 4 other categories of work that we will also get reimbursements for. The way that we approach this, this was the absolute biggest ticket item and focused the majority of our effort on getting this big ticket item punched, and have just recently completed. Did we get a status yesterday on whether or not that they've processed our administrative? Yeah, we've submitted and been going back and forth with FEMA on those other categories, and actually met with them last week to do some final minutia cleanup to capture those two.
Okay, so, and then another question, does this include then the repair of the town's walkways to the beach?
That's one of the categories that's in a different.
Oh, it is?
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay.
It's about 40. Anyway,
It's different,
they're
okay,
different
that's-
category. Those are facilities.
Okay.
When would you anticipate they would send any funds at all, reimburse any of it? How quickly? 2, 3 months, 4 months before you'd start getting some of the reimbursement?
Yes.
3, 4 months?
Yeah, we've actually already received as part of this project, some of the reimbursements from the Irene damages that we've sent in, and I would assume that the time frame on doing that, we send a report in request every month. It is gonna take some time. Another thing that's gonna enter in here is that the size of this grant is gonna drive a requirement for a single audit. And so there's gonna be another level of scrutiny that the feds will have to perform it, but there'll be another level of scrutiny on it from the federal level, because I forget what the threshold is, but this definitely over.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm not sure I know how to ask this, David, but since there's gonna be a lag in reimbursement, well, how's that gonna impact expenditures until we're reimbursed?
Well, let me answer it with the good thing is the good thing is that we've spent the bulk of it already. Or we have the funds escrowed with our special obligation bond in the bank, and so we've got the cash. We're probably about halfway paid on the project. I think the other day, we went past the 8 million mark. I've written a couple of big checks. I think we paid about 8, and there's probably an invoice on the desk. So, I'm thinking that it's going to be ships passing in tonight. That's what I'm hoping that'll happen in terms of cash flow. And it's a good thing that we have fund balance in B part that can handle this load, this cash flow demand.
So you don't have any concern?
Oh,
Things
I'm concerned. I'm concerned. Been concerned since Matthew hit. But being optimistic is the only way to go here, and that's why we want to make these reimbursement requests just as soon as we can, and based on the approval here, we can move out with that. So the first reimbursement request, we just sent one in the other day. They're due the 10th of the month, so that'll set up to get that in, but it is taking about 2 months.
Okay. One other question. I understand these are Schedule G reimbursements and expenses. Are we gonna be restricted by how we use the funds in B part because it came from Schedule G, or is it open to all the other types of expenditures as we decide?
It's as the board would decide.
And is there a time limit based on?
We have to finish all of the permanent work within 18 months. I don't see that happening. Only the monitoring is something that would concern me. Gosh, I hope we're done with this thing,
Well,
by
I
30
asked
March.
Yeah, I asked too, because remember we kept Irene money, kept on
Right.
pushing out.
But-
More than 18 months, right?
But the difference in that was that we were waiting to do a project. Okay, that now we're in the middle of the
Understood.
project. And so that shouldn't be a factor here. But you do have 18 months to finish all the work, and then there's always the option on getting an extension to that, like we did with the FEMA. I wanna put a bow on this one and walk away from it, to be quite frank with you. But it's probably gonna take a year.
Any more discussion? You ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Budget workshop revenues, Mr. Hewitt, I guess it's still you, sir.
Yes, sir. Mandy Lochner is going to go through a presentation that she has created for us. She's going to walk us through the revenues workshop.
Bear with me. The purpose today is to explore revenue streams for the town 17-18 budget year. I'm gonna
We need to talk about that. The 3rd of April, that's actually the first day of the Coastal Local Governments meeting in Nags Head. And I would ask, I've also got some personal obligations the week prior to that have come up that are gonna make it be real hard pressed to accommodate that 3rd of April date. Those two things considered, can we push that meeting a week or so, slide it to the right?
I'm not available the following week.
Neither am I.
How about the next week?
The 17th,
17th is good for me.
that would be the day before our meeting.
I'm okay for the 17th.
Yeah, I'm good.
That's good for me.
I'm out of town.
Let's see, does it have to be,
On town business.
does it have to be before next meeting?
Be the 24th.
It,
before
it,
May
it,
15th.
it doesn't have to be before the next town meeting. That was just, a desire, based on a desire of the commissioners to move the calendar up into the budget year. And, I didn't do an adequate job of deconflicting things. I mean, that's on me.
I'm okay with the 24th.
I'm all right with the 24th.
Okay, 24th.
Anybody have a conflict with the 24th?
No, I'm good.
We're good here?
9 o'clock?
When's Easter?
The 16th.
Okay, all right. You'd think I'd know when Easter was, but.
So let me get this straight, the 24th at 9?
Yeah.
Thank you.
These are our revenues by fund. We have general, water, BPAR, and capital dredging fund. In general, we have about 2 categories where we have revenue distributions. We have state and town generated. Those you can see on page 1 of the spreadsheet. I think it's at 1, 2, and 3. That's the general fund. These are our state revenues, and these are highly based on North Carolina's economic climate. And there's a list of the major ones that we have. Those are also on those first 3 pages. These revenues that we projected are loosely estimated because we haven't got any guidance from the North Carolina week yet. They haven't sent out their North Carolina climate email yet, so these are just based on past projections that we have stored up in our spreadsheets. The town-generated revenues are property tax, building fees, recycling fees, rents and concessions. Obviously, our ad valorem tax is the largest of these. This is the budget formula that we use to estimate our revenue for 17-18. And this is estimated on a 22-cent tax rate, so that's around 2.6 million. I'm assuming I just left it at 22 cents because I didn't think you guys, depending on what your pleasure, I can change it, but that's how I figured that out. Our building fees, right now, I guess, pretend that through the county, there's a lot going on, so these might be a little bit higher, but, his department can't be greater than the budgeted expenses, so, if there's any new legislation or anything Tim would like to add into this, he can. If not, I can move on. Okay. Our recycling fees, we have about 260 residents using curbside recycling. We've collected roughly around $14,000. She gets more in every day, so this revenue might grow a little bit as the year progresses.
Isn't that one though that zeroes out?
Yeah, so it's kind of a wash. The rents and concessions, these reflect the renting out of the water tank to cell phone providers, and there's 4 major ones, and combined yearly, we get about $100,000, so that's quite a big chunk of our general fund revenue.
to review the first few pages of the package, or who's gonna,
The spreadsheet?
yeah, I mean, it's related obviously to what you're,
Yeah, I mean, these are just, budget numbers that we plugged in. A lot of these are just based on spreadsheets that we have, and we're just doing trends, you know, from what year to year that we have, because we haven't gotten a lot of information left. A lot of these, like the state distributor revenues, a lot of these, we haven't even gotten the full year's worth of those yet, so we're kind of, you know, using a guessing game from past years and what we might be getting.
It's an educated guess.
It is
Sure,
an
sure,
educated
sure,
guess,
understood.
because we have, you know, a lot of past years of that information.
There are a couple of legislative things that are in play, and you'll actually see them on the March agenda item. Sales, local option sales and use tax, there's a initiative to change the distribution for that. We didn't know how to include that in here, and,
They're trying to pass a law saying that, it's gonna help rural counties more than beach communities, and so we're trying to get approval to send stuff to Congress saying that, no, we would like to have our seasonal population added into what our population is now, because our population is so low that we're not getting a very big chunk of what we can get. So the sales tax and some of those revenues on the side are, like you said, highly educated guesses, because we're not sure what's gonna pass, and we're not sure how to sort of do that just yet.
Yeah, Frank Eiler is heavily involved in that. I've had several discussions with him, and Mr. Hewitt has too. So we're gonna give it a good shot.
yeah, I mean, in general, we're always adamantly opposed to anything that's gonna reduce our revenues, and especially on the state distributed revenues. Frank Rush up at Emerald Isle, along with Representative McGilvray, Pat McGilvray, they've actually come up with a seasonal adjustment that, in my mind, is totally logical, and it's irrefutable. It's very quantitative, and that is to apply a seasonal factor of 2 times the number of housing units that you have. And for us, that would mean that our population would be 6,000 people. And so when you, instead of being the 500 that it is now, we will go to 6,000. Now, will that happen, politically, is that viable? Like I said, it's very quantitative and logical from my perspective to do that. I find it totally acceptable, or it really syncs up with the fact that our water system is rated at 6,500 people, which is an annualized number. There's too much correlation in that for me to think that that's totally coincidental. So we probably have 20,000 people here, whatever that number is, on July the 4th, but on an annualized basis, especially as it pertains to state distributed revenues, that 6,000 number is a lot more palatable to me.
Mr. Clemens, you had,
That 2.5 number is actually the number they use on getting our population from water to, because it's the number of pets on 2.5.
Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna push hard on that one.
David, in the fees area,
Per-
up in the,
Which page?
on the second page of the actual revenue,
On page 2?
page 2, you got 6 components there, one right after the other, all about fee related to permits, zoning fees, and electrical inspection, mechanical, plumbing. They're all significantly lower prediction. Is that because this year's budget is overstated? Or is there a reason why you would expect to get have half as much income next year?
well, it's,
This year, they had new legislation that they passed that raised the limitations for when a permit is required. It went from 5,000 to 15,000. Our permits are based on values of the work that's being done. see, that is a tremendous impact in the budget.
You don't have to get a permit anymore for,
Yeah, if it's it used to be if it was non-structural and cost more than 5,000, you had to get a permit. Now, if it's 15,000 and non-structural, you don't have to get a permit, it has to be 15,001. So that's gonna impact, those revenues that we collect. And I went back and looked at what that percentage was, we actually keep every single value, we have a record of it, so I went back to see how many of those non-structurals would be impacted, and I calculated it into those revenue projections. And that's how much it's going to, that I feel like it's going to impact it, based on a 5-year trend and what it will do to us this year. So,
Do you anticipate, well, I'm assuming the budget reflects the reduction of inspections we'd have to do?
yeah, the way it works is that for every one of those that doesn't get permitted, there won't be an inspection. And see, we actually, some of those are based off of the number of inspections. For instance, if you were doing 15,000, it was non-structural, and you might be adding one branch circuit. You know what I'm saying? We would only be, because the non-structural stuff doesn't have to be permitted, we would still have to inspect that one electrical. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we would be going one time for framing for 5,000 or more, and one time for electrical. Now, we're still going one time, but we're only inspecting one time. So we still make the same amount of trips, still there for the same number of inspections. So it just affects that amount of work that's hammering and nailing and that kind of stuff. Subcontract work's not affected by that, they still have to get a permit there.
what we don't know as related to, the number of permits is what this new wide beach is gonna do for construction overall. You know, I mean, we've built it, now what do we do with it, is kind of where we are. I have no idea what that's going to do for our housing demand here.
The other if you look on page 1, line 3, I'm just looking at the budgets as well, you know, the line 3, you know, you've got a FY 16-17 budget of 42,000 plus, and then you go to 17-18, it's down to 12.5. Why is that?
That's tax related, those are prior taxes that people have paid. I think a lot of, Margaret can help me here, but I think a lot of people paid some back taxes.
Okay.
And that was a pretty big chunk of that, that's why it looks so high, so we don't really wanna estimate.
So the previous budget was kind of an anomaly, and this is more,
You had a couple of big taxpayers that had outstanding that leveled up.
And you don't really
Okay.
wanna budget for that, because you
Understood.
don't know that.
you know, it just sticks out, it's twice as
Yeah.
much.
Mhm.
You know, it's almost twice as much, so.
On page 2, the last 2 items are transfers. Is there anything we should know about that, like water to sewer?
Yeah, those are always dependent on the expense side of it, and, you know, anything would be just a guess that's
We need to know those.
horribly guessful.
And it shows, like, page 3, 3.3 million in B part, that's the,
That's the general. 353. You say B part?
oh, okay, okay.
Where is that, Peter? I'm
Just
sorry.
the third page.
Okay,
the
that's
general fund.
General fund, okay. Total, okay. So down from,
Okay, that's total.
down from 3.5, the previous budget year.
But you gotta look that,
Some of those are unknowns, right?
Yeah, we
yes,
haven't
you
got-
don't have some of the unknowns or the appropriations, the fund balance appropriation in there either.
Okay.
But the question would really be bottom line, are you expecting $200,000 less than revenue? Which would cause an issue, which means expenses have got to be adjusted. Is there a reason to be concerned that we really are gonna have a $200,000 reduction?
What I do know, let me answer with what I do know, that you're going to see a positive influence resulting from the fact that our bond interest rate was actually brought in at a lower amount, so that amount of appropriation or taxing, if you will, we should see an offset there. Plus, there'll be a residual that comes in, I want to say about $40,000 that the county will return from the escrow fund to the B-Part fund. And that will also have a positive impact on what the amount of general fund contribution to the tax or to the beach project would be. So I don't know how that will come into play as far as 200,000. We're going to have to do the other side of the equation.
And do you have a feel for, with the new construction, say for 2016, how much that would drive up ad valorem taxes?
We have that information, we got that information from the county, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the sheet that we got from the county, the numbers that we got included all of the new construction that, as of January. So that 2.6 million includes all of that new.
Yeah, anything, you gotta remember that the tax base is predicated on the position as of 1 January of 1 January. So anything that happens from now on will go toward the next year as far as a tax base increase.
Right.
The good side of that is that our collection rate actually inched up a little bit last year, so that's what you get to use in order, when you run the multipliers out.
I have an audit.
On the handout, the B-Part occupancy taxes and on this,
There should be in the next, if you flip a couple pages, there's water and sewer fund revenues, you see that one?
Yeah, we're just in general right now, right?
Yeah, we haven't got the B part yet, and then the last page of the spreadsheet type should be B part revenues. You have it?
No, that wasn't B-Part, they corrected me.
B-Part's
That
on
was
page
the
6.
general fund on page 3, was the total of the general fund.
so do we have a number for occupancy tax?
We haven't gotten there yet, but yeah, we'll get there.
Yep, okay.
Do you have any more questions on? The enterprise fund, their fund 30, I think that starts on page 4. You can see. The revenue generated from here is usually from water billings, our capital sewer fee charge, and water tap fees. I might have to defer some of the questions to Chris, but I do know that we have noticed that there has been no major conservation efforts after you guys raised the water rates last year. So that makes a little bit of difference. I mean, not.
And the residential impact fee for this last year, 444 versus 42 for the next year? Was that some,
Let me see it.
on page 4?
That's an error.
Is that an error? I was gonna
That's
say
an
that.
error. It's 40, that's a triple 4 instead of a double
Ah,
4.
okay.
It would have been 44.
Yeah,
So back to your statement, we did not see any conservation effect from the water bill increase. Didn't we project some conservation from that or not?
Chris?
Well, actually, what we did, you remember last year, we worked a rate structure, we went that block and tier method.
And
Right.
it's a
And
little
we tried
strange
to,
when you don't
tried to
know.
come up with a scenario that mainly the people that actually put the most impact on the system will be paying the additional cost. And looking from where we're at now, it doesn't look like they've conserved anything. We're holding steady, maybe we've actually built about 4 million more gallons in regular water use than we did last year. And I think our projected revenue for the whole thing was about $70,000. sewer, water, and irrigation, because all three parts were affected. That block and tier were actually price structure changed after we got 2,000 gallons. With that being said, if it holds, you know, I use March, April, May, and June to actually fill in the rest of the year because we hadn't got there. If we hold like we were holding, the total revenue in 2016 for the water department was $1,537,000 and some change. And this year it'd be like $1,675,993, actually increasing by $130,000. So I think we're gonna hit that mark we projected and over.
Okay.
So not only did they not conserve, it looks like we used some more.
The only thing I see that went that bad, the only thing I see that went down a little
But we may.
is actually a little on the sewer side, and it's not a whole lot, but I think what
Yeah, I
that's
would
contributes,
expect
a lot of
that.
people getting irrigation meters, it seems like we've been flooded with people wanting irrigation this year. But when you look at the fact we're not giving them anything that we're running back to the treatment costs, I guess it's pretty much a wash. I think we're still coming out to good.
Well, the more swimming pools you have, the more evaporation you have,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
And you remember, we had all those spreadsheets, we had 100 different scenarios where we're trying to come up with something that we felt would work good for all, and I think that's definitely it.
That brings up a point. What's the permit fee for a pool?
Permit fee for a pool?
Yeah,
It's based off the value,
oh, okay.
but
But it is a separate permit for a pool, right?
swimming pools are completely, well, they can include them in the, like if it's a new house, they can include it because it's an actually accessory structure to the primary use, but it's still the same cost. In other words, that same fee gets added right to the house. There is no reduction for putting them together.
Seems to be a lot more
We do have
pools.
We do have a lot of pools.
It's,
We
it's,
have a lot of pools. I think we have more than our share of pools.
it's a desired amenity.
Yeah,
It's
but
today.
it's,
It's what
you know,
people
it's
want
permitting,
today.
you know, there's more,
And it adds to the value of the structure
Yeah.
back through the taxes. That all gets picked up because we, like I said, we keep all those values and then they go to the county to send them in as they come in.
Okay.
And it does get picked up at the tax office. So we get it. We know what those values are.
okay, thanks.
I hadn't thought about this before, but the more people who install second meter for irrigation, that equates to some revenue loss for the sewer, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So are we jeopardizing the funding for the sewer because of that?
I don't think so at this point, because in all reality, I mean, we pay $2 before we, treatment cost of sewer alone for us, you know, it's pretty high. I think it's pretty much a wash. I think where we're at now, I really haven't seen it's not a big trend, but it's a little less.
Okay.
The extra revenue on just the irrigation part alone is like, if you go from January to February, we're up about $20,000 compared to where we were last year this time, so I think it's working out. That's something that you definitely have to be careful with when you're trying to plan something.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think you can be creating something and losing a lot of the other.
Right, that's what
I think we're in a good state right now.
That didn't, that point takeaway there is that we just hadn't seen the decrease in, that we thought we might. You know, that was, it's an unknown and we didn't see it.
It'd be really interesting to see what these next few months,
Over
bring,
the
because that's
summer.
usually high, yeah, that's usually high billing months, and we really don't know what the result of that was for those, so it may be a lot better than what I just stated, let's hope so.
What are we experiencing in cost of the water? Is that tending up? Are we paying?
Right now, it's held pretty much the same for the past few years, but it's a possibility it could go up a few cents this year, but you won't know that in hard terms till after about July. They'll give you some kind of projected, but we won't, that will be aged in stone for a few more months that I can actually rely on.
What we normally do on that, whenever the county gives us an increase, we just immediately pass it on.
But it usually only, like on the water, if it was gonna change, I had never really seen it go over a nickel. I mean, if you've seen it. And sewer costs have actually lowered some for treatment costs, and that helped too.
By contract, that wholesale rate that we get from the county is directly tied to the PPI, the Producer's Price Index, and it isn't known until a little bit later on. But I don't anticipate that moving much this year. That's something that doesn't move drastically. It is tied, I think that producer's price index is probably tied more closely to the price of fuel, and we haven't seen movement on that in a couple of years. Nothing radical, anyway.
I need to change the subject for just a minute. Mr. Hewitt and I are supposed to be at the county complex at 10 o'clock this morning for the shoreline protection committee, the counties, so forth. Do you want neither one of us to go? You want
I
one
don't
of us?
have much left, if you want me to finish, and then,
I just seek your guidance. It's a 20-minute drive. We'll do whatever you say. We'll both stay, one of us go, whatever, but you got 20 minutes to be there, 23
well, I'll
minutes
skip
to be
the
there.
sewer rate structure. You can enter that. The B part fund, you guys know what that is. As of December 31st, this was our revenue projection. Obviously, that's not right today because we get more each month, and so that's just gonna climb higher, especially through the summer. We have some grant obligated monies, and then Christie's local programs bring in some funds for that. I do think this fund will be down a little bit this year because the summer project is going away, so we won't have that big, balance again, so.
But we're being reimbursed for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not gonna be so high, it's gonna be back to sort of normal.
What it was.
And then the capital dredging, we have, they just met and they have, put their assessments down, and you can see each one of those, listed. They have Harbor Acres is 320 a lot, Heritage Harbor is 400, Long Beach Harbor is 400. And this is what their working capital would be if they got all that, those assessments and the taxes. And that's all I have. If you guys have any questions? Or you need to go?
Yes, sir.
The last few years, occupancy tax has exceeded ad valorem tax. This year, you have $1 million less.
Well, that was only as December 31st. We've gotten a few more numbers in, so I'm not sure if it will exceed it, but we haven't even gone through summer yet.
What was the question? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
In the previous years, the occupancy tax has exceeded the ad valorem,
Uh-huh,
but probably the last two.
right.
Right now, the two numbers presented is $1 million difference with ad valorem, you have $1 million.
Well, you increase the ad valorem tax by a third in this current budget year, so of course, that amount was about $835,000. So that's the lion's share of the difference.
Good question.
Yes, sir.
In that vein, the almost $6 million that we're getting because of Matthew, is that going to have an impact on future property taxes since it's going to reimburse part of the $15 million that was raised by the bonds and so forth?
That's a board decision on how they'll handle that. My job is to put it back in the sack.
Let me ask this question. Won't the $6 million be used to reimburse things that were done for the Central Beach property?
Absolutely.
I asked a similar question, of the town manager. We can't prepay the, bond, so that's why we've got that money now
We'll
going
discuss
to
the
be
issue.
part. Yeah.
The projection is that we might end up a year from now having a net increase, significant net increase in the B part fund. Because we've already spent a lot of the money that we're gonna get reimbursed for.
That's right. One final note on the capital dredging project. That effort is spinning up for 1819 dredging of the Holden Beach Harbor canals and Heritage Harbor canals, a full dredge of those two, and a partial dredge, the entrance canal of Harbor Acres. So that would be some of the work, that there's 2 budget cycles left before that actually happens, but some of the work has to be done in the upcoming budget year surveys and that kind of thing. So that's That's when that will actually happen, is about 18 months from now is the effective date of that.
Anything else? Anybody got anything you want to say or do? Your motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We adjourn. Thanks to everybody for being here.